Hello, and welcome to the series on a self-worth driven education. My name is Arun Raj, and in this episode, we'll explore how students can set their own pace. As you know, this series is called a self-worth driven education. The core of it is self-worth. Now, self-worth lends itself to a concept called a growth mindset. This concept implies that students can take every opportunity, whether success or failure, in order to grow. And that should be the measure of success. This concept is promoted heavily by a Stanford professor named Carol Dweck. A quick Google search on her or a growth mindset will show you plenty of articles on what I'm talking about. One of the central tenets of a growth mindset is students set their own pace. They have control over their own progress. And so we as teachers, if we want to bring about a growth mindset, need to empower students to set their pace. Growth mindset states that we can all take incremental steps, small steps forward, but each of us can only maintain our own pace. Not only that, there are times or topics in which our pace might actually increase or decrease. Intuitively, this is true. For math, my pace might be pretty fast, and for English, it slows down quite a bit. For another student, the opposite might be true. For a foreign language, my pace definitely slows down. But for science, it might increase. Each student is different, we all know this. The opposite of this is a fixed mindset, in which all students are expected to move at the same pace. And not only this pace which is the average of the class, but a pace which meets the expectations of the teacher. At the highest level, just think about how we transition from one grade to another. We expect all students to learn all the content for that grade level within maybe a 9-month period. If one student were to take 12 months to learn the same content, they probably will get a lower grade or even fail that class, even though just 3 months later they're at the same level. A lot of the challenges we see in education today are a result of a fixed mindset being systemically embedded within the system, starting from the classroom to the way we standardize tests to the way schools promote themselves. Allowing a student to move at their own pace is essential to helping them discover their self-worth. To do this, there are small steps that teachers can take to begin this process of allowing them to choose their own path. A few examples are: allow for multiple resources for a single objective. Another option is creating learning stations, allowing students to spend time on a learning station until they are comfortable to move to the next. And then there's a concept of check-ins, which allows the teacher to get out of the way of defining the pace. However, the long-term solution, or in other words, the natural evolution of these strategies, is competency-based learning. Competency-based learning is another thing which is popular in philosophical discussions about education. But given the current structure of education, it can be difficult to implement. But here are the 3 values which competency-based learning brings about, which we can pull and try to apply in whatever teaching strategy we choose. First, students need to feel their mastery. Competency-based learning says students need to reach mastery, but reaching is not enough. They need to feel it. They need to own that content. Second, students need to sign off on their progress. If they're going to set their pace, they need to know their pace. They get to decide when they speed up and slow down. And finally, students need to plan their next path. Implementing this within a classroom requires a little bit of a creativity, or if not creativity, at least a little bit of flexibility from the teacher's perspective. The extent to which this is applied requires administrative support for that teacher in doing this. Otherwise, our own fears will overcome our desire to help these students discover their self-worth. The most visible fear are the expectations that schools have upon their teachers. And there's only two ways to solve this problem. One, the administration in the school has to give teachers the room to experiment and explore options for their students. Or two, the teachers just make an internal commitment to themselves that the primary objective in their classroom has to be empowering students to discover their self-worth. Another, and probably more intrinsic fear, is the desire to control a process. When we get afraid that something might fail, our natural instinct is to take control. So when we start feeling that a student is not learning, our natural instinct is to force feed that information, get them to read it again. In fact, we sometimes just say the exact same thing to them as we said before, thinking that the second time around it's going to make sense all of a sudden. But we all know that that's not actually the best way to learn. The best way to learn is through experience. Fear is what gets in the way of allowing students to set their own pace.